Honorable Chief Justice Luke Malaba, Honorable Chief Justices, judges, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. As I have 10 minutes, I will try to be a bit fast. So, a couple of words about us. Up to today, we have implemented projects in more than 80 countries. And mostly we have covered done projects in all continents. And the flagged one that you see are actually countries where we have done case management systems for justice sector. So United States, Latin America, several in Africa, in Pacific. And our clients, some of the ones you may know, it's of course the GSC here in Zimbabwe, for whom we are building the integrated electronic case management system. We have a partnership with the Ministry of Justice of Rwanda, for whom we have done the integrated electronic case management system, which covers all justice sector institutions. So above dozens institutions, including judiciary and all other institutions in the sector. And we are also developing the ECMIS system for Uganda. And the systems that we've done have got several awards. So we have won the African Public Asset Management Award, the Top 10 Core Technologies Award from US. So, and our experience was becoming more and more. So why this is linked to the Zimbabwe's experience is that Zimbabwe had the chance to get actually all the experience that we got from different countries, starting from Court of Human Rights in Tanzania, the Rwanda, which covered all the sector, US courts, Uganda, also Papua New Guinea. So we tried to bring all the experience, lessons learned, and the actual requirements from Zimbabwe and to mix them to be able to create really something newer. And what we had in mind were actually the result that we tried to achieve in Rwanda, to be able to see how these can be replicated considering the COVID and all the difficulties that we have now, the same in Zimbabwe. For example, after the implementation, we were able to reach 100% e-filing rate, so all the cases can be filed online. We were able to reduce the case processing duration from average 7 months to 3.4 months. It's about twice. Then reduce the backlog. So cases are taking less time, backlog is also reducing. Also adjournments were reducing, and the most importantly, after implementation of a case management system, the country got up in doing business indicator for about 22 points. So the challenge that we had when we were started, we actually started the project for Zimbabwe IECMS beginning of this year. And with the COVID, to be able to achieve these results, we had to think more. We had, of course, the very strong championship from the Chief Justice and Secretary and all GSC, which helped a lot to kick off the project digitalization initiative during the pandemic. And the idea was to make it paperless. So if in some countries, the idea is to have partially the processes covered digitally, but what was the requirement for Zimbabwe is to make a way that the case can become paperless, from its initial filing up to its closure, to be able, if need be, not to use any single paper. So what was the system actually? It is a web-based system. So it's accessible online, so litigants, advocates, and all other judges, court staff can log in online. Meaning it's a one single system which can be used by multiple stakeholders of the sector. Then it has the off-the-shelf components. Taking the advantage of knowing and having the experience from Uganda, Rwanda, and many other countries, we brought the off-the-shelf components ready to be able to make the process more faster. And it's adaptive. So one key aspect about the systems that are built for JSC and specifically for Zimbabwe, the processes may change. Currently, all processes are governed by the court rules, but court rules themselves, they can be updated. And during COVID, if we compare the rules that we had let's say 10 years or 5 years ago. Now in the court rules, there are some phrases regarding a virtual hearing or summoning someone electronically through an email. So, and they can change, the processes can change. Because from physical filing, when going to electronic, the rules can change, and it's very important for the system to be adaptive to all those changes. And nowadays, also, as not everyone have computers, but most people use mobile phones, so the system was required to be also accessible through mobile. And the system itself will be integrated. So it will be piloted next year, but also it will be integrated with all justice sector institutions that are in Zimbabwe to be able to interchange data, exchange it with police, prosecution, law society, and all other institutions that are in the sector, so that GSC will not be isolated, but it will be able to send and receive the data from all justice sector institutions. And there are multiple benefits. Due to time constraint, I will not detail each of them, but basically, by improving the processes and not just standardizing, but digitalizing them, making cooperation with other agencies, this can reduce the backlog. And delayed justice is no justice. So the time that can be reduced for the case, the less backlog we have, the better access to justice will be. And for those project implementations, so in Zimbabwe, we have already finished the assessment and system design, and thanks to the very strong initiative and guidance that we had here. And we have already started the testing of the system, which is already deployed. And during the presentation, I will very quickly show a couple of pictures so we have an understanding what the system looks like actually, and how it covers some of the aspects that were also raised by Professor Richard regarding the virtual sittings and all the digitalization of courts. And those are the bunch of different functionalities the system has. So, of course, it's role-based. So from security perspective, every field, every piece of information that is in the system can be secured by different roles and different stages of the process. It has multiple tools for analytics, collaboration, cooperation, forms, electronic signature, and what we call the paperless court, which is the virtual. Oops. Need help? Happens. Okay, as my time is really few until they fix, I will just tell in the presentation a small story. Let's imagine a situation like this. Somebody needs to file a case. And usually after filing a case, the case should be accessible. Someone entering the system should see the hearings that are currently or planned, the calendar. All these are the most common functionalities that any electronic case should have. But the small presentation, as soon as it is fixed, that we'll see is how the hearing can be done virtually. So it's good that a lot of nowadays they speak about Zoom and other technologies, but what if there is something that can be more integrated than Zoom or any other technology? So if we resolve, yep, this is the login screen. So as I told, it's a web-based system. So any citizens, litigants, advocates, even prosecutors or state attorneys, they can register online and they can access the system. So when accessing the system, the advantage of the system is that it cumulates all what is pending action for each user separately. For a judge, those will be the orders that he needs to work on or cases that are assigned. For an assisting registrar, those will be the files that have arrived to the court, and everyone will also have access to their calendar. Whenever clicking to a case, it visualizes the portfolios, and these are the captures from the existing system. So each user will see the cases that they have, they can filter. This minimizes the time, because if you have a huge dozens of cases on your desk, sometimes it's hard to find something. but when you can type a name of a party or a number of a case and it brings the case, it's easier. Then, when opening the case, system shows what has happened to the case, how many files there are in the case, what's that information, and there is the commenting and communication. Sometimes we always think about the case about the judges associating, saying, this is the case, how the judge should do, but the case starts from the registries, where all the communication is going with the parties, filing, checking, and to facilitate that process, even the checklist correspondence to the rules have been digitalized for Zimbabwe system, and with commenting, it will be easier for the public who doesn't know very well the rules, then file cases to the court, and checking the checklists automatically understand if they have done everything correctly or not. Then, for easiness, all the files attached are being classified into folders. This gives easiness to find the files easily, but sometimes, and today I was speaking with one of the judges, sometimes you need to find something in a previous case as a judge. So the system is embedded with a content search, so any file uploaded in the system can be searched and then referred to. This also reduces the time required, because if you pass through hundreds of pages to find one specific phrase to make a reference, but if you can just type, it will bring automatically all the files the user has access to. That will also facilitate. Then, now let's say we want to schedule a session in the system. We can open in the case sessions and say, do we want to have it online or offline? So nowadays, as courts can be physically closed, not to delay, cases can be made online. And putting online, it automatically notifies all the users, meaning the judge, the bench, the clerks, and the parties that there is a hearing. Of course, the technology has gone in a way that now it's easier to track if the mails have been delivered or not, and this is something also linked with the rules, that it should be delivered to be considered as summoned. But when the hearing is scheduled, then the first thing after scheduling and planning the hearing is to sign the notice of hearing or hearing order or the summon. So electronically, documents can be previewed and signed. And just if there is a touchpad or a touch screen even, or a mouse, just a mouse, the signature can be put. So let's say we can have the case, get the files, schedule a session, and when the signature is already on the notice of hearing, parties are notified through email and SMS, make the virtual hearing. And one thing that we got for the virtual sessions, this is a print screen again from the existing thing, it can replicate the real court setup. So in Zoom and other systems, and one of the biggest constraints that we heard from different judges, and not only in Zimbabwe, but from different countries, in Zoom it's a bit hard to understand who is the judge, who are the parties whom they represent. Sometimes they can even type different names, which makes it difficult for the judge to understand who is actually this person who is connected. But integrating those two systems, the case management and video conferencing, we have come to a place where automatically it will show who are the parties exactly, and for the advocates whom they are, or lawyers whom they are representing. And also having the speaker mode where judge can easily see the person, and also a trick, a hammer for a judge, which is implemented, so when the judge will click on it, it tilts all the screens so everybody gets in order. So technology trying to replicate the real examples. And of course, there is also the analytics component. So the idea that we had was during the phase 1 of implementation and phase 2 that we can have all the data analyzed and through the analytics understand at what situation we are. So the decision support of electronic system, it's not about to help a registrar to easily identify should this case be dismissed or not, or the judge to be able to easily see all the heads of arguments and prepare for the hearing, but also for the administration and heads of the judiciary to understand how well judiciary is performing, where there can be potential backlogs, and how to make the correct allocation of resources. So the electronic system and the one in Zimbabwe, they have all these dashboards already implemented, so they can clearly see what's the situation, and make the data-driven decisions. And the last, I'll do it very fast, but some technical thing which is not being discussed, but it's very important. 4 years ago, when I was also speaking during a conference, it was the third judicial dialogue, I was asked one question: how sustainable these electronic systems are? Let's say companies come, and this, I think, is the experience that has happened in many places. Systems are implemented, but they should be modified and changed. And the question at that time that I was asked, what about the source code? We tried to resolve this, and not just giving access to source code, which I think is the idea that most ITs are requesting, but to make it in a way that the source code will not be required. Because in the system that is currently built for Zimbabwe, the IT team has already passed the training. Whenever there is a need to add new fields, there are builders. So this is again one of the extra steps that make the system more sustainable and adaptive to changes. Because if there is a new form which come up in the rules, because if you go digital, the rules are changed, the forms will change. There is a new type of data to be captured. All this can be done through the interface without necessarily entering into the code, so the system will be more easier to maintain and further enhance. And any form can be modified. So if you want to say that the session is public and to say that it should be streamed on YouTube also, this can be done through the user interface, taking not a huge time. And the processes can be changed, and the forms. Something that always changes is dynamic, because the rules change, the laws change, and the forms are also being changed, the forms that are usually in the rules. I tried to keep short. Thank you very much.